Hello, everyone. It is, what is today? The 18th of March. And today is day 16 of my 90-day video challenge. I'm actually recording this on my latest, newest phone, a Google 5G. I tried going with a Samsung S22, but I thought it came with two physical SIM slots, but only came with one. And nobody likes to put eSIM on a Samsung for whatever stupid reason. iPhone, no problem. Or if you have Google Fi service, they'll do it on the Google Pixels. But not on Samsung, which is like one of the most popular phones in the world. But whatever. Everywhere else in the world, you can do dual SIMs, but America, for some reason, lags behind. Kind of ridiculous. So anyway, there's two possible things to talk about today. One was the Sims, not the video game, but Sims for phones, just to get a little technical today, because I do currently work in IT. But then I also thought of a good thing for everybody to work on or use, if you don't already, is a password manager. There's tons of different sites that we go to. They all have logins. It is a very, very, very bad habit to use the same login for every website or multiple websites. Because if one of them gets hacked, if you don't have a real strong password to begin with, then everybody has access or can have access to whatever other sites that they know or feel that you might be using and can attempt to log into them. So now most of the newer browsers anyway, they'll generate passwords for you, which can be good. And if you're using the same browser on multiple systems, your phone, tablet, PC, Mac, whatever you're using, then as long as you have a sign in for that particular browser, like Firefox has a sign in system just like Google does for Chrome, Edge for the Microsoft browser, since Internet Explorer is going away. However, I wouldn't recommend using the browser as your password manager itself. One, you have to use that particular browser. So if you happen to have a site that doesn't work very well in one browser, then you have to use it in a different browser, which means now you have two different password managers possibly, or you have to transfer everything from one to the other if you're going to do a complete switch, which, I use 3 or 4 different browsers all the time. So, I use Opera, I use Edge, I use Chrome, I use Firefox. At work, I had to use Internet Explorer a little bit still, but actually the newer version of Edge also has a feature that you can turn on for it to use an Internet Explorer engine, since Internet Explorer is going away. Windows 11 doesn't have Internet Explorer in it anymore. So if you're used to Internet Explorer, get used to not using it. Or use the Edge browser and you can use emulation mode, which is fine if you have older websites that require Internet Explorer still, but those are getting fewer and fewer as you go. So instead of using the browser's built-in password managers, I recommend a standalone password manager system. Two that I know of, one that I use, one that my wife uses for her work. The one that she uses is called LastPass. I haven't gotten into it, haven't tried it, so I don't know all the ins and outs of LastPass. But the one I use myself is called Bitwarden. It's Bitwarden. Now, Bitwarden comes as a standalone application that you can install on a PC, on your phone, tablet, whatnot. And it also has browser plugins for all your major browsers. So pretty much any browser, or most of the browsers nowadays run a Chromium base. which is a base of how Chrome is used, the browser itself. The engine is called Chromium, and Edge actually is based on a Chromium platform. Firefox uses a different one. Opera uses a different one. Can't think of all the other. There's Vivaldi and many other browsers that mainly use Chromium for their base platform. But you can use this plugin on whatever browsers that you do use, as well as have your standalone app. They all synchronize to each other, as long as you, of course, you use the same login. And that makes it so you can use Bitwarden on just about any device that I know of. I believe they have applications for Linux, Mac, Windows, Android phones, iOS phones, or Apple phones. So you can, once you sign up with Bitwarden, you can use it on every device that you have and store all your passwords there. The good thing about this is that for each website you go to, you can now use a password generator that's built into the application itself, Bitwarden, to generate a random string of a password. So depending on the site, some sites limit you to 20 characters and no special characters or blah, 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 blah. You can set those features within the generator itself. You can change it on the fly, of course. I usually like to set mine to 32 characters long with, every feature turned on and a minimum of 4 numbers and minimum of 4 special characters at the minimum. Some sites don't allow special characters, so you may have to turn that off on some. But every time you launch a generator, it'll generate a new password. Plus, there's a button there to generate a new password right away. You can copy the password, or when you're setting up a new login, you can go straight into the generator from the creation page where you set up your new login for that web page, and generate the password on the fly there. Or if you need to change the password because they say, okay, you've had this password for so long, there's been a hack, blah, 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 and to safeguard your data, please change your password. You can go into the Bitwarden login for that particular website and edit it, do a change of the password right there, generate a new one. And then, of course, that syncs to any plugin or application or the Bitwarden application that you have installed once you start it up on that particular browser. So that way you don't have to memorize passwords. You can make sure every login is unique for every web page that you go to, each application that you go to. So that way if one gets hacked by some chance, then everything else is protected because they all have their own unique password or passphrase. One thing you need to keep in mind with Bitwarden, though, which is a really good feature and can be a downfall, is that there is no password recovery. So you basically have your login ID and your password. If you forget your password, there is a fingerprint phrase. Fingerprint phrase. My mouth is a little bit dry. Made it a little bit hard to say. Which is, can't recall how many words it was. I think it was either 8 or 10 different random words that you can use to regain access to your vault. Vault is where Bitwarden stores all your information. And it doesn't only store login ID and information. You can also store credit card information, secure files, or some secured data. Haven't gotten into all that. I basically just use it for the password management system. But so those are your 2 ways to get back into your vault. Is either with your password or with a fingerprint phrase. Blah. For some reason, I cannot say that today. So that is a good feature because that means, there's no back door into your Bitwarden vault. So if someone does hack into like the Bitwarden servers and steals a bunch of databases where your vault is stored at, If they don't have your password, they don't have your fingerprint phrase. Blah. I swear I'm going to choke on that word tonight. Fingerprint phrase. They cannot access your vault. All right. Depending, of course, how long your password is, the longer it is, of course, the more difficult it is to decrypt your information. So unless someone has a quantum computer access, which is very, very limited right now, it'll take them hundreds or thousands, possibly even 10,000 years of a standard computer today, or even one of the more powerful computers today, to break. I think it's like 12. If your password's at least 12 characters long, I think it's should be somewhere around 1,000 years if I remember properly. Don't quote me on that. I may have that a little bit off. But so then comes to how do you create your passwords? There's two paths of thought on password creation. One is random letters, numbers, and characters. The longer the better. Okay, it's not, it's just random. It's like an A, a Z, a capital U, a pound sign, 2, B, capital T, Y, exclamation mark, and so on and so forth. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a word. It's just random letters, numbers, and punctuation marks or special characters. So that's one way. That's what I would recommend for your logins that you're saving in Bitwarden itself. Again, the longer the better. I wouldn't recommend anything less than 15 characters. Some sites may have certain restrictions, which is really ridiculous when they limit you to like 8 or 10 characters at max. I'm like, you do realize this is not 1980. All right, 8 and 10 character passwords are not that hard to crack if you got the right equipment, the right setup. And especially if they, a lot of those don't even allow special characters. So it's just letters and numbers. And depending on which algorithm that they're using to encrypt your password, they can be broken in a reasonable amount of time if you've got enough processing power going up against it. And plus, a lot of people use easy passwords. That's why Password Manager or the generator is really good to use. Now, for your password for accessing Bitwarden, that you don't want to make it so difficult that you can't remember it. Where you have to write it down somewhere, because if you write it down somewhere where you have to look at it to be able to access your Bitwarden vault, then obviously that's going to be easier for someone to find it and to see it, copy it down, and whatnot from there. So the other train of thought on passwords is using a passphrase. Now, a passphrase is different from a password where, you have igloo or password. If you don't know much about passwords and encryption and things like that, if you use a standard word, that's the first thing any hacking application is going to do is go through a dictionary attack. So basically, it will take every word that's in a dictionary and apply it against the algorithm to see if it accepts it and breaks in. So if you use a common everyday word, or any word in the dictionary itself, hacking is going to find that pretty quick. There's just under 1 million words in the English language. That really doesn't take that much time for the computer system to run through all those and find out if any of them are valid or not. So you definitely don't want to use normal words or just a single word. In a passphrase, what you want to do is make a sentence. Some type of sentence that makes sense to you, of course, for you to easily use. Now these can be, it doesn't have to be a normal sentence like Mary walked down the hill. And we're not talking about that type of sentence. Make a sentence of things that's easy for you to recall, that you can put together in the right order, and also change some of the letters to either numbers and or special characters. So, for instance, you could do, I'll take my new phone, for example, Google, okay, or a Pixel. I could take Pixel. and then my truck. It's a Ram. My first child's name, Martina. And where I was stationed when I was stationed overseas in the Army, Korea. So I could take those words together to make my passphrase. Pixel Ram, Martina, Korea. Okay. So now that by itself makes it a lot harder for someone to hack against, because they have to know all the words in the right order to break in. Now the problem is that they're all standard characters, so it would be much easier to hack than if there's numbers and characters involved. So therefore, once you get your phrase set up, you want to go through that phrase and substitute in numbers and special characters in distinct locations that you'll remember, and therefore change it. Like for RAM existent, for instance, I might swap out the A for the at symbol. Martina. Again, I might swap out the A for at symbol or just leave it. The I might make as an apostrophe. Different things like that. So you go through, pick out certain letters that you know that you've changed, and replace it with a number or a special character. And that becomes a passphrase. Again, the longer the passphrase, the better. Just like your random passwords. So those are my thoughts on how you should, or a decent way to set up a password manager, set up a password phrase for accessing your actual vault, whether it's Bitword and LastPass, or I know there's several other systems out there as well. Or even if you do stick with a browser version of a password manager, just make sure you're logged in to that system, whether it's Firefox, Microsoft for Microsoft Edge, or your Google account. Make that a passphrase so that's not easily figured out by anyone else. And then all your passwords inside, it'll set up a random generator for you from there. And I'll give you a suggestion whenever you get to a password field. If you don't already have a password set up, it'll suggest a random password for you. All right. So that's all I got to say for today. Thank you for listening. This has been Phil Tingley. Keep feeling tingly. And this is day 16. Yeah, day 16. Thank you. Good night.